Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, back from hiatus, I bring you the greatest hour of your week, the Richie and Hazz Show. Richie, what is going on?
Well, I mean, this podcast, this is actually kind of exciting. How about you?
I'm hating to do an hour with you.
No, you don't. You
I
love
really
this kind of stuff.
obligated.
You're into this kind of stuff.
No, okay, let's tell people where we've been.
We have been on several radio programs. In fact, we're still on one radio program.
Well, no, I'm on your radio program, which I can't stand, but I'm contractually obligated to go. We're talking about the Richie and Hazz Show. For anybody who's listening, Richie, you have a Super Talk. I like doing the show on Super Talk. I'm just having fun. But you have a legal call-in show on Super Talk.
We do.
Monday to 9 to 10 a.m.
Yeah.
And we're joined
on Mondays.
That's why I said Mondays.
Oh.
And we're joined today by one of our co-hosts on that show, Stephen Nixon. Stephen.
Yeah, hey, what's up?
Have you been on the Richie and Hazz Show before?
I think I was only on it once, way back in the day during my ill-fated campaign.
Okay.
But yes, I was on with y'all once.
And to back up what we're doing here, Richie asked me to come on the call-in show. Richie and I are truly best friends. When I'm drinking at night, worrying about committing suicide, I wonder how I got here. but with that said, we have a lot of fun on the show. But I have to do a better job of promoting myself and marketing myself. And for some reason, and Stephen, I'll get you to chime in, I'm just not a big enough whore to do commercials. And
well, you do have a face for radio.
Well, I'm just saying.
Why are we videotaping this?
But I mean, well, let me ask you this. Let's jump straight into this. When did you? And we've talked about this some on and off the air. When did you decide to be the marketer you are currently?
That's a strange decision because there was somebody 5 years ahead of me.
Okay.
And then
What year? Where are
this
we?
was in when I came out of law school in 1981.
Okay.
And so
Didn't have to take the bar.
No, didn't have to take the bar.
Okay.
Thank God. That made me a lawyer.
Yeah.
And
We've never discussed this. GPA out of law school.
I started with about a 3.3 and finished with a 3.3.
Okay, so top 25%. Top 30%?
I don't know. You know what? The lowest last person is a lawyer, so it doesn't really matter.
That's right. That's right.
If ever a phone went off, could you turn it off for God's sake?
It's not mine.
It's not mine. I don't know whose it is.
Well, the reason I started advertising, I was really, when I first came out of law school, I started my own law firm, and I went into collection and mortgage closings and things
Suing
like that.
the people.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
I mean, and so what happened is, and I was always fair. I mean, people needed time to pay, and I would do that. I try to work it out. But I got so tired of it. And then, for instance, I did a closing, and I told the person, I said, by the way, we do injury cases too. So, and unfortunately for him, about 5 days later, he was killed in a car accident. And so I got that case, and I said, I love this. This is great. So there was one guy advertising, and it was you get criticized so much for advertising.
Well,
in those
especially
days.
back then.
Yes.
In 1980.
And I said, I didn't want to be.
What year was this?
1981.
This is still 81.
Yeah.
So you're 27?
Well, I just came out of law school, so I'd be 24.
Wait a minute. No, it's 4-year degree. So you went to law school at 22.
I went to law school at 21, so I'd be 25.
You graduated Millsaps in 3 years.
No, I mean, you usually graduate college.
No, 18 is your freshman year.
Right.
19 is your sophomore.
I guess you're right. Yeah.
So you graduated.
I'm on a math major, okay?
Okay. But anyway.
So what happened is I didn't want to be second.
Okay.
And go through all that criticism. And luckily enough, someone did start advertising. And then I said, I can do it right after them. And I created my own ads. And
okay, stop. When you said you created your own ad.
I did.
Like, do you have a copy of your first ad?
Probably do.
I would love to see it.
It was very simple. You remember Star Wars with the letters that came up and disappeared? It was just that.
Huh.
It was just that. Just what I wanted to say, and it was just that ad.
So that your ads have gotten worse as the year.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Actually, my face started to appear on them, so that obviously got worse.
Wait, did you have the mustache or not at this time?
I did have the mustache.
Okay.
Most of my adult life, I had a mustache.
No.
Young adult life.
Adult life.
Young adult life.
I was at his house one time, and I'm like, what the hell's that? and he just no beard,
Yeah.
just a mustache.
Mustache. Wow. Okay.
But
Yeah.
because I've never seen you with a mustache in my out on TV or not in my adult life.
Well, the reason I had shaved it is because my ad guy, who I hired much later, convinced me
You look like a weasel.
that is well, I still do. But
No, you
I was a
look-
hairy weasel
No,
back then.
you look. I mean, of course, I hate to say this. If you're talking about them, I'll turn to Steven. Steven, top 5 most famous people in Mississippi, is Richie one of them?
Oh, absolutely.
Who actually live here? Because
Yeah.
I have this conversation all the time with people. Morgan Freeman, Brett Favre.
Yep.
Who's number 3?
You talking about people who are living?
Who living here, who you can see in a supermarket somewhere in the state of Mississippi on a regular.
Okay, I was about to say, because Oprah's from Mississippi, but she don't
lived
count.
here.
She doesn't
Yeah,
live
she
here.
Don't claim it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of a...
Richie or the
that's kind
governor
of
in a
tough one.
supermarket, who knows who more better?
More people
course,
probably know
yes,
Richie,
yes.
to be honest, because if Governor Reeves is in there with a ball cap on or something, and he's you might not recognize him if you not.
Did you ever thought about people going to recognize me everywhere I go from now on? And
Well,
I'm giving
I
up some
actually,
privacy?
I like to wear kooky stuff, and shorts and walk around and
nice.
stuff. And so I was a little worried about being on ads. I didn't want to do it initially.
Okay.
But my ad agency convinced me that it was important. And what I was getting to my facial hair, he said people have preconceived notions of people with facial hairs. So I had to shave my mustache. So I was a little concerned because I'm timid. I didn't want to be on TV.
You're timid.
Yeah, I didn't want to walk around. I want to walk around and be me.
You do realize that you have an ad with the dancing cowboy.
Okay, I'm not as timid as I used to be. Okay, so
Got over it.
I didn't want to be on the ads, but you personally need to be on an ad because you're selling yourself,
Right.
and they're buying you. It's like a politician. You're buying a politician,
Right.
when you hire
I think
a
that's
lawyer.
illegal. you and I'll be having a conversation, and 6 people will be watching us, and I'll be like, "Hey, I like my alone time. The reason you and I are such good partners is forever. I let you do the marketing, and then and then we would have our projects where I would work on.
Sure.
And then no one would know me, and also because I was a Hinds County prosecutor forever, I had a lot of friends out there. I sent to jail, and I like to disappear. But and of course, when I'm beside you, even 6'6", 259 today, which is still
Okay.
fat.
You
but
lost
I'm
about
losing
50
weight.
pounds?
Oh, it's shocking about how vain you get when you know you're going to be on video. You start fasting. But yes, but now, I mean, let's be honest, even the reason we're doing the video podcast, he's getting old.
Yeah.
And if I don't
I am
okay,
old.
exactly. So I figure you got 2 more years left in you.
I
And then I can't ride this train anymore. So that's one of the reasons. But moving forward, we were on Super Talk. Love the people there, but we can't talk politics.
No, we're actually sent our contract because they're very heavy Republican radio station, and sometimes we don't agree with everything Republicans
Well,
say.
but we're
Now, Stephen
moderate.
may be the exception, but
Well, no, I mean, Stephen's moderate, but we can't, and we honor that as
Right.
much
yeah,
as we can.
absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
I went to WNPR, which is a huge, it was owned by Charles Evers.
Right.
And it was the largest, most popular political Jackson talk show.
Right.
And then they gave us a morning time slot, which wasn't a good time slot. When I went over there, we were invited on Charles Evers' show.
Okay.
And Mr. Evers had a bodyguard. And this was, 5 years ago? And
Yeah.
I thought to myself, oh, they're going to kill me if the civil rights leader has a bodyguard.
Yeah.
And because I know how my mouth is, I know my topics. But anyway, we went over there. We ended up with the #1 show over there.
We did.
And there was some discrepancy about how they were charging us. I left. You're still there on Wednesdays,
Right.
9 till 10, with one of your attorneys,
Yeah.
Gerald Crawford.
Gerald.
Excellent guy. He'll be coming on this show.
Good.
But we've been trying to get the video podcast and we've all had individual conversations about being on social media more, YouTube, Instagram. It's hard as hell to find someone. But so I mean, we put some money in this, and then COVID happens, but we can't find a studio in town really to do this. But COVID limits us anyway.
Right.
So we're trying to do this. It's going to be stumbling a lot, but understanding. And to me, this is not the whole. I don't feel as much of a whore marketing.
And it needs to be entertaining and informative.
Well, you're not going to do either one of those things.
I'm going to do my best.
So we got the information on this side.
That's right. We always give it to Steve and say, give us the
talent is
answers.
here,
Give us the
okay?
answers.
But let's get into the topics. Topic number 1, RBG. For those who do not know, I don't know anybody who doesn't know, Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg,
passed tragically from cancer. And, of course, our society, we go straight into the political fight.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate
Correct.
to me. It's like,
There's
we can't. Before we get into the other stuff, that's one of the things. This was a powerful woman who was brilliant and accomplished, and how about let's take a few minutes and honor her legacy before we start talking about the politics.
And even go vote. I mean, she even had a movie about her life because she was such an interesting.
And look, I disagreed with the politics, but you can't argue with her accomplishments and her just status, everything that she was able to do with her life, and coming up as a woman. I mean, she was older. She was coming up through those ranks before a lot of the reforms that have taken effect now were in place, and so it's one of those, when you talk about the political disagreements, it's like the two warriors who have this mutual respect for each other, even though at some point they're fighting each other. But with her, you can't help but respect who she was, what she stood for, what she believed in, and she fought for it. And so nothing but love and respect for her and her memory.
Well, I mean, the thing, and I echo what you say, but more importantly, this is a mother and a grandmother.
Yeah.
And anybody who's had someone pass, especially from cancer, that's not an easy situation to get over. I mean, that is a horrible disease. Have you two given any thought about if you had cancer, would you do the chemo? Because I know you had a business partner who passed from cancer, who did chemo. Have you had anybody struck with cancer yet? Hopefully not.
I had a cousin who he had the non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. But he died in early March with what would be probably COVID symptoms. So that may have contributed to his. But
how old was he?
He was about 5 or 6 years younger than me. We weren't very close. But
did he use Roundup?
Well, he did, and
hey,
he's the one.
How about some condolences?
Condolences, but did he use Roundup?
He did. He worked on a farm, and he does have a Roundup case. It's with that outfit out of Texas. I forgot the name. But that doesn't. We don't have to advertise for them.
No,
you do Roundup
We've
cases.
settled
I
all
know.
our Roundup cases.
But no,
did they
top dollar?
Have
more per case than anybody else.
Have the settlement numbers come in on that? Just as an aside?
Preliminary, it has, and it's
preliminary.
Yeah, it's triple what most people are getting.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah. So we're real happy about it.
Yeah.
But I mean,
cancer and chemo.
Would you do chemo?
I don't know. It depends. It would depend on the type of cancer and how dire the prognosis was. But at my age right now, especially, I don't know, man. I think chemo in a lot of cases, especially depending on the kind of cancer it is, that's one of those where the cure is just about worse than the disease, because you're likely to die anyway with some forms of cancer, and then you have this miserable.
It can cure it, or resolve it, or not cure it, but at least put it in a state where it's not appearing anymore, not in your body, but it can reoccur, obviously. But don't you have a lot? You're young. Don't you have a lot of things that are unfinished, things you want to live for?
Yeah, that's true.
And it's not a hard decision.
Yeah,
to me, because there's just so much more you want to do.
Yeah, but you say that, Richie, and I saw it, and I agree with Stephen on the stage 4. If I'm stage 4, you can sit there and say all that you want, but I mean, you're poisoning yourself.
Well,
and I mean, technically,
how many times have doctors been wrong?
A lot.
A lot.
Right?
Yeah,
a lot.
Yeah,
how many times have they been right?
Well, I mean, it's 50-50. I mean, or
No,
60-40.
that's
Whatever it is,
that's not how
they're
stage
not
4
100% right.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is, and it happened to my mother, you sit there and go through chemo. My mother technically didn't die of cancer. She was cancer-free, but her body got so weak, she died of an infection.
Okay.
And it's one of those things where, I mean, it depends on the stage. But now, one of the things they don't do anymore, they don't give you a percentage anymore. Now, they blame us, the lawyers. But, they don't, hey, man, shoot it to me. Well, it's going to be difficult. And you get on that. Look, a Baptist treated my mom. I was very happy with the treatment she received. But you could tell they'd been trained not to give a percentage because they didn't want to be wrong. But no, there's a stage where I'm just going to go on a beach, gonna enjoy my days, lay out in the sun, and then because like I said, you're burning. Give me 5 extra years, but I'm hooked up to an IV and I'm in a hospital bed.
That reminds me of my father when he was in his 80s. He had to have a heart valve replacement.
Seymour Schwartz.
Yeah, Seymour Schwartz. And so he went to different doctors. He went to one doctor, and he said, "Tell me honestly, doctor, what are my chances of surviving?" He said, "Not really good." Then he went to another doctor. Doctor said, "What are my chances of surviving?" He said, "Mr. Schwartz, 20%. Then he went to another doctor, and they said 50-50. And then he went to a doctor in Cleveland Clinic, and the doctor said, "What's my survival rate?" He said, 100%. He said, "Well, you're my doctor." And sure enough, he did. Yeah, he did.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, so I guess you can pick a doctor just based on what they will tell you.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, no, I mean, we do know people, and we all know people who go to MD Anderson.
Yeah.
Of course, MD Anderson's doing, Star Trekian medicine over there because your business partner was 6 months here.
Right, and then he's some experimental drugs. And he lived
7
a
years?
lot longer.
7
Yeah,
years?
a lot longer than he was supposed to.
Yeah. So
and had a decent life.
5-6 years, he was out playing golf.
Yeah.
Had a bucket list, doing great things.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
but anyway, we do need to remember that. I think it's horse of us as a society, like what we did with Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
There were people screaming and yelling, and you're like, dude, he's got kids, he's got a wife.
Yep.
Let's have.
And like
a
the
chance
first
to
thing that
mourn.
happened after he died is they brought up that old case about the alleged.
Yes.
It's like, guys, come on now. I mean, I don't know. I mean,
I understand it's a news cycle, but we can give them a week.
right.
Family Guy predicted it anyway.
Was that
Family Guy predicted it.
Family Guy? Or
Yeah, he died in a helicopter crash years before he actually died in a helicopter
Family
crash.
Guy.
Or was
Yeah.
it The Simpsons? Isn't it
No, it
The
was a
Sim-
Family Guy.
Isn't it The Simpsons that's predicted all this stuff that's happened?
I thought it was
Like-
Family
Simpsons
Guy.
has
Maybe
got
it is The
billion
Simpsons.
episodes. Of
Maybe
course
it is
has
The
to be
Simpsons.
right.
I don't know. It's one of
Yeah,
those.
yeah.
It's amazing.
But let's get into it. Schwartz, should we confirm a judge before the election?
Absolutely not. And for
Okay.
2 reasons. Number one,
Okay.
politically, I think it's a disaster.
You're a
because
Democrat.
I'm a vote for the person, but I have Democratic leanings for sure. But I don't think the court's supposed to be fair, and it's supposed to be not slanted one way or the other. The best court, I think, as lawyers, we all agree on this, is a balanced court. And the moment you unbalance that court, it becomes a difficult scenario. You know what the outcome's going to be. It's going to be leaning toward whatever the lean is of that court, and that's wrong. It should be a well thought out, balanced opinion. The other thing I don't want to do, I don't want to go through a circus of appointing a Supreme Court judge that we're about to go into right before an election. I think that it's wrong that a president would do that anyway. I think he's
Okay, so
going
let
to
me
look
stop
like.
you there.
I think he's going to look silly doing it.
When you say it's wrong, what are you basing that on?
Well, I'm not basing it on politics. I'm just basing it on common sense. That to me, you don't even know you're going to be the president next term.
Well, let me ask you this, just to jump in there. So, what about Merrick Garland? And Obama would have appointed him, and he would have been confirmed if not for the Republican majority in the Senate that prevented it. Would that have also been wrong for Obama to cram through a Democrat appointee?
Absolutely.
Okay, well then that's fine. And that on this thing, I just ask for consistency, right?
Okay.
So I respect that position because that's one of those things where, you know, if you want to say we should have had Merrick Garland, but we you know, because they were going to do it, right? I mean, the only reason why the Obama administration did not make that last-minute appointment is because the Republicans had the votes in the Senate
they have
to
the
stop
vote.
it.
Now, if Trump appoints someone, the question
Now they
is,
have the
are they
votes
going
to
to
do it.
railroad it in?
Right.
And I think that he's going to look very foolish by doing that.
Okay, how would you classify your political self, Mr. Nixon?
Well, yeah, I'm sort of like what Richie said. I vote for the person, but you know, I have more conservative leanings. I don't like the term, you know, Republican or Democrat as much personally, but you know, if you were going to define me in national elections, I pretty consistently vote Republican. State and local stuff, it varies.
Well,
you know.
Well, who is the greatest president in your lifetime?
I'd say Ronald Reagan for me.
He was good.
Yeah.
He was good. How about you?
you can't really judge a president for 25, 50 years.
Well, let's name two, because that's a fair thing. Well, who's the second favorite?
The second one,
Or
Bill,
equal.
Bill Clinton.
Okay.
Who?
Bill Clinton.
I hate Bill Clinton. I can't stand
Yeah,
him.
but I don't like him personally.
No.
But I think his presidency was successful.
No, I think Bill Clinton.
I mean, there were some foreign policy failures and things like that, but I think domestically,
I think Bill Clinton sold out the Democratic Party and the workers and passed Republican policies that a Democrat. I believe that we never go straight. We're never going to go straight. We take hard lefts and hard rights, and then you look back and we end up in the middle.
Right.
And when Bill Clinton was passing NAFTA and was doing things to make him popular, but was not protecting his base, and then you throw in the side deals to get Hillary nominated. To me, Hillary Clinton's the worst candidate. I do believe history will show that, and I'm not taking away, Trump won the election, but the election was about Hillary Clinton.
Hillary lost.
Yeah, Hillary
that is,
lost.
that is a fair. That's a fair assessment. I mean, Trump won like in Wisconsin, maybe like Trump won counties in Wisconsin with fewer votes than Romney got in those same counties in the prior election cycle.
Well, I mean,
it is fair to say, I mean, Trump won in that sense, no, but Hillary lost.
But the thing about it
is the reality.
No one can tell me if Hillary Clinton had not married Bill Clinton, she wouldn't have been the nominee. She wouldn't have beat Bernie. Joe Biden would have ran. But, and she had to go to New York to get elected. She couldn't get elected in her home state, Illinois, which is a Democratic state, or she couldn't get elected in the state where she was first lady for 8 years, in Arkansas.
So she went to New York.
She went to New York,
Yeah.
and when everybody had to come out and her nomination speech where she was the most qualified candidate ever, it's like saying, I'm the greatest Christian of all time.
So,
if that's what you lead with.
So who is your favorite president?
I would have to say in my lifetime, probably Reagan, but I'm a Democrat. Let me say that.
Give us two.
Okay, I know that. But I mean, the second one would have to be Obama. But it's hard to judge Obama being so close to his administration.
Yeah, sometimes it takes some time where you can look back.
History to judge them.
Mine is Nixon.
You're an idiot.
No, Nixon was great. Look, he
Except
opened
when he
China.
got impeached.
When we had the worst
Burned the
inflation.
tapes.
We had the worst
That
inflation.
didn't happen?
What does that got to do? All the
Obstruction
presidents.
of justice.
All the presidents are guilty of something. I'm talking about what was accomplished.
Okay.
We had inflation at 15%. You know what he did? He froze prices. Inflation went away. When he left, inflation was almost gone. We opened all the affairs with China. He had Kissinger everywhere. I mean, it was a great administration.
Your greatest president of all time is Nixon.
Well, I have two.
Okay. Well, now we're talking about in our
lifetime.
lifetime.
We said
We're talking about in our
Lifetime.
lifetime. Okay. So we're not.
Well, you weren't even around when Nixon was around.
Exactly. But I'm just saying. So when I get the comments, Washington and Abraham Lincoln would be top two for me. But we're talking lifetime.
Yeah, in our lifetime.
And let's be honest, we're not going to remember. Well, I guess Reagan, I was 8. So I mean, but you don't, and maybe that's why he's.
And Reagan was a great president, but my second favorite or equal is Obama for one reason only, because he understood that universal health care is important. Every single person in America should get good health care. I'm embarrassed that we're the greatest country in the world and everyone can get health care. And I know people, and you know people, work 2 jobs and can't afford health care for themselves and their family because it's so expensive.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. We should have good health care for everybody.
Do you think your history or your career being a personal injury lawyer has influenced that?
No, I just feel like it's right.
Okay, back though on this tangent, should we nominate or confirm a Supreme Court justice before the election?
I mean, I say yes because, to be honest, if Obama had the votes with Merrick Garland, he would have done it. And so the whole.
But why didn't he have the votes?
Because,
and who stopped him?
Because he didn't have the Senate. The people stopped it through the electoral process.
The Republicans stopped him.
Well, yeah,
the Republicans, not the people. Mitch McConnell came out and said,
"Well, yeah, the people who elected a majority Republican Congress stopped it."
But they didn't elect. There's no election. There was no. Well, there was a precedent set under Clinton where they were trying to nominate someone and they would not do it in an election year, and everybody flip-flopped, I do believe. And they played all those tapes where Biden said it was an election year and you couldn't nominate that. But McConnell is taking the complete opposite point of view than he took 4 years ago.
Yeah, and I think it's fine as far as with the politics, because again, that they called him all kinds of names. The Democrats did not like the rule. They didn't want the rule in place when it applied to them and Merrick Garland. They called Republicans obstructionists and talked about how horrible and awful it was.
But the rule was placed. So you're saying that you get to pick and choose what rules apply at any time. That even though the Democrats didn't like it, the Republicans implemented the rule. So you're saying that forget what we say, we're just going to do what's best for our party.
The winners make the rules.
In 2020,
the winners make the
in
rules.
2020, Brent, the answer is yes. Because throughout so many years, the Republicans played that game where they would go with the decorum, they would go with the procedures, and that would benefit the Democrats in some way. But then when the shoe was on the other foot, they did not get the reciprocal action from them.
Any example of this?
Well, I didn't know we were going to talk about this, but let's think about it this way. Think about impeachment. All right, just for one example.
Okay.
There has never been an impeachment that pretty much I think it's presumptively invalid if it is 100% a party line vote on impeachment.
It's always been a basic. Well, not always.
No, it hasn't. No, and that's the thing. The House impeachment proceeding, it was 100% a party line vote.
Okay.
Well, the other side, on the Republican side, it was 100%
party line.
That's right. But
okay.
but the point is that if it is a 100% partisan, is the divide on the opinion on that issue from an impeachment standpoint, that is presumptively invalid. Why did they impeach? Why did they go ahead and do it? And also, despite what we're learning now about the horrible foundations for the surveillance to begin with, it was an investigation that never should have really happened based on what the FBI knew. They impeached anyway. Why? Because they had the votes and they could. Knowing that it was going to go nowhere in the Senate. They did it because they could. They had the votes.
They did
it
anyway for his taxes. I mean, who cares?
Okay.
So as far as I'm concerned, they have the votes. They can do it because that's how Democrats have always operated.
Okay, first of all, you can't sit here and tell me I'm okay with Richie saying the winner makes the rules. I'm fine with that. The problem I've had with the Republicans is they're the first ones to say we're the party. We have a vice president that says I'm Christian, I'm conservative, and I'm Republican in that order. Well, at some point of Christianity is telling the truth. And then it seems like, and I'll say fake Christians, it's fine when I sin. And when I sin, I'm going to hell, and I'm horrible, and I need to be beaten and stoned. But when I get in to say, fine, are you perfect? No. Then what are your sins? Oh, Lord. Now I'm attacking personal issues. Now I'm getting into it. Back to Trump's impeachment. Why it was political. 17 people pled guilty for something. Okay?
A lot of people did plead guilty.
Yeah.
Of course, they're all going to be pardoned, including Trump.
I don't think he's going to pardon anybody else.
I think he's going to pardon himself.
Brent, you know
Whoa.
about federal investigations and the chances that you have of successfully defending against them.
I also know on federal investigations, they don't go against you unless they have you. Because they're promoted.
They used to not.
No.
They had nothing on Michael Flynn. They had nothing on him.
Except he pled guilty.
Yes,
because
he was out of money and they were threatening to prosecute his son as well.
He lied. First of all, that's every prosecutor ever. Every prosecutor ever says, if we go to war, we go to war. Now, with the federal prosecutors, if you look at a federal grand jury indictment, when they indict you in federal court, it's literally like 25 pages. They've been through your bank accounts. They've tapped your, well, they don't tap phones. They turn your cell phones against you.
Yes, but they had nothing on Flynn.
Hang on.
Even
Except he
despite all
lied
of
about
that.
the Russians.
No, he didn't.
He admitted in open court he lied. He admitted he was not honest about his contacts. He stood up in federal court and allocuted to it. And 2, 3, Stephen, as you know,
these were phone conversations
he lied
with the ambassador,
wait.
where they were legal conversations.
First of all, he was not the only federal person. Everybody knows. I've had thousands of people come in here and say, do not talk to the feds. The feds know everything. Every question they ask you, they already have your phone and your bank records. You take the fifth or you don't even go to a meeting. So all these people are like, can you believe the feds? The feds are the 800-pound gorilla. They walk in and they know everything. The reason they're so detailed is the U.S. attorneys are promoted by percentages. If you don't win 90% of your cases, you're fired.
Yeah.
So that's why you see now in state court, for the people who do not know this, It's a one-page indictment, and you'll be getting discovery on the day of court. And it's not because they're hiding anything. It's because they're overworked and underpaid and don't have enough to go on. But all this whining, these people are multi-millionaires or working with the President of the United States.
Flynn's not anymore.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Here's the idea. He knew everything. When you're dealing with a foreign government, you are briefed on how the world works, or you're too naive to be in that situation. Two, he could have said, I never said it. This is what happened. I called him. That man stood up. Either he was incompetent to allocute, or, oh, I'm under pressure. Everyone who's indicted is under pressure.
Exactly.
Doesn't mean they all plead guilty. He could have stood up, and more importantly, he had the President of the United States in his back, or he had that card that most people don't have. And to sit here and play this card.
He still got it.
Exactly. But what I'm saying is,
he's going to be
sit
cleared.
here and play that they're the victims.
But he didn't do anything, Brent. There was no probable cause for that investigation. They have admitted that.
They have not admitted there was
there was no predicate.
We know
for
the
the
Russians
investigation.
interfered with the election.
They've already.
Is that it?
Well,
You agree?
no, you can't say it. But
That's what the FBI's
Wait a minute.
notes say.
You believe the Russians interfered with the election?
There was no probable cause that the Russians.
I think the Russians and a whole bunch of other people do stuff to try to
believe the
interfere with our
Russians
elections.
interfered with the election?
I don't know that they were expressly trying to help Trump more than anybody else.
Okay. Well,
The hearings show they've had hearings upon hearings that people have that the Russian. Now, like I said, do I think they're the reason Trump won? No, I do not. Honestly,
they're running Facebook ads or something.
Yeah, they're running bots. But what I'm saying is,
how many votes did that change?
It's never the crime that gets you. Going back to Nixon, it is the cover-up. If Flint would have said, "I took a meeting, I didn't know anything," it wouldn't have been the case. If Clinton would have sat there and said, "I had an affair, it's none of your business," it wouldn't be a case. If Reagan would have said, it's a contra. But what I'm saying is, for me to sit here, redneck in Mississippi, to understand it's the cover-up, Michael Flynn. If he would have hired me, hey, the FBI wants to talk to us.
He didn't cover this thing. He did. There was no crime for him to cover up.
It's obstruction when you lied to the FBI. They
didn't charge him with obstruction.
What did he plead guilty to?
It was making a what do you say? Making a false statement.
Yeah,
but
right.
they have come back. They have come back now, and they have said that there was no valid predicate for that investigation.
Wait a minute.
Who said it?
Falsified.
Who
who said
it?
that? That's
the Department of Justice said it.
That's because
listen,
Trump
he's a
told him
puppet.
to that.
He's a puppet.
You can't tell me. Why would you plead guilty to? Would you ever plead guilty to something you did not do? Have you
read the filings? Have you read any of the filings from the Flynn case? I'm serious.
No, I'm asking you. Well, answer my question. Would you have pled guilty to something you did not do, understanding what a federal crime would do to your life?
Yes, I would have pled guilty.
I would say, give me 12 people.
If I didn't have the money, and if they were threatening members of my family with additional prosecution, absolutely, yes, I would plead guilty to it.
What money are you talking about? I can do a criminal case, and criminal cases here, we do murder cases for $25,000. You have the power of the Republican Party behind you. You have Donald billionaire Trump behind you.
Trump couldn't pay his legal fees.
What I'm saying is he can do a fundraiser. He can do a fundraiser.
He can do anything he wants.
He can do a fundraiser for Michael Flynn. This whole thing.
No, he can't.
Yes, he can. He can host a fundraiser.
A fundraiser for legal costs for someone who's currently under a federal
indictment. Yes,
I
you
think
can
you
raise any money you want to, as long as it's not violating policy rules.
Wait a minute. And the president would do anything. Okay,
Correct.
Let's just think about that for a second. If he wanted to do it, he's going to do it.
Well, he didn't. And so, and here we are with
Flynn. I think
with Flynn, the point of the Flynn stuff is there was no valid base. They falsified documents that they presented to the one guy's pled guilty to falsifying an email that he presented to the FISA court to justify continuing surveillance. And the whole thing is that what they said was that whatever conversation with Kislyak he allegedly had, the whole point is that it had nothing to do with a valid crime or valid investigation. It was just simply a misstatement about a false statement about whether he had. It was like what they did to Papadopoulos. It's like, how many meetings did you have with that
really
guy?
True.
And he's like, I had 10. And they're like, you lied. You had 11. You know how these federal prosecutions work, Brent. People who did not do what they said they do plead guilty all the time. And I know this. Yes, they do.
Give me some name. I've been practicing federal law and been a prosecutor for 20 years. And what I'm saying is you can take a lesser included offense or you can sit there. But no, never in my life has people stood up or there'd be other charges and say, look, man, if they don't get you for this, they're going to get you for B, C, and D. Or, you might not get caught for like Al Capone. You might not be caught for selling the booze, but they got you on tax fraud. But no, the situation, take Diaz. It was a political prosecution against Oliver Diaz. They didn't get him. Yeah. And Oliver Diaz.
He pled not guilty.
They're not guilty.
And they had nothing on him.
And it was unheard of for him to get off of those charges like that. And it's because they had no evidence.
That's what I'm saying. But
remember, Diaz, that's a different story. That was when Bush Jr. was president, and they actually had, I've forgotten what the mission was called, where they would get the U.S. attorneys to prosecute plaintiffs' lawyers for the sole purpose of preventing them from making donations to the Democratic Party. And justices that would not do what Bush said, they got fired. Yeah. They got fired, and they put in new prosecutors for the sole purpose of going after plaintiffs' lawyers throughout the nation. Right. And so they didn't do it on the basis of criminal activity. Right. They did it based on politics, which is wrong.
And the other thing, too, another example, Brent, is so impeachment is one. It was going to fail from the beginning, and they knew it.
Failed coup. I'm gonna.
No, it was going to be a failed impeachment attempt. They knew this from the beginning, but they did it anyway. Why? Because they had the votes and they could. Secondly, just think about.
Well, don't you think you have a moral obligation to do what you think is right? And we know the president is not clean. Okay, we know his hands are dirty. You have a moral obligation to do something.
Let me stop you this. Do you believe what he just said?
What
that Trump's hands are dirty?
His hands are no more dirty than any of the other. Than any of the rest of them who are up there.
Qualifying the answer right now. Do you believe that Trump's hands are dirty? Yes or no?
Yes.
Okay.
It was not. He's not. I don't believe he did anything impeachable.
Go ahead, Richie.
But his hands are dirty. I think, of course, everybody's hands up there are dirty.
You, as an elected official, have a moral obligation. To do what's right, whether you're a Republican, Democrat, or Independent, doesn't matter. You're supposed to do what's right.
Or what you believe to be right. Sometimes.
Well, you base it on the evidence.
Right.
The evidence clearly showed he tampered with the election and dealt with the Russians. There's no question about it.
I think at the end of the day, the evidence showed that he did not. That Russia was trying to do things, but that there was no evidence of any kind of coordination between his campaign and the Russians.
Well,
that was the ultimate conclusion that everybody came to. There was no evidence of any kind of coordination between his campaign.
What I'm saying is when you get Roger Stone and these people pleading guilty. Now, like I said, you can say...
Roger Stone didn't plead guilty. He went to trial.
I know that. I'm talking about the other people pleading guilty who stood up. 17 people in this investigation pled guilty. They nominated this.
Every one of the guilty pleas was something after the fact based on alleged misstatements they made.
And what I'm saying is, or any criminal attorney knows, the feds never get you on what they charge because obstruction's easier to prove. All the judicial bribery scams here, they all win obstructions. If you say this is what you pled to and this is all fake, then you're taking away about 90%. Because that's just how the feds work. Because what they do is say, well, you lied about being here. You lied about moving this money. You lied about knowing about this.
Right.
The feds have done that playbook 100,000 times. The feds have one play in their play. It's power sweep. Because they're the United States federal government. And for someone who's at that level to sit there and whine about it, because like I said, it is legally... Trump's DOJ.
Well, wait a minute. Why was Trump trying to get rid of the person in the Justice Department because they were doing an investigation on him? If he didn't feel like he had some possible exposure, why was he in such a big rush to block everything, to get rid of this guy? I mean, that's all he did. So why would you think he'd be in a big rush to do it if he was innocent?
Are we talking about Comey? Like the firing of
Jim why
Comey
do you think he did it?
Well, I think he fired Jim Comey because Comey was terrible at his job, and I think he shouldn't have left Comey in the position to begin with, because Comey clearly hated Trump. People told Trump not to let him stay, But Trump's philosophy about Comey in particular was apparently he felt like he could win him over. Well, that didn't work.
But didn't he criticize them for this investigation? The fact that they're doing this Russian investigation, and he had to try to block them and stop them, and he did that historically.
But he wanted that to stop because he said there's no basis for it, and so now you can say I don't believe that, but I mean the point. I mean it was a facially valid reason. He's like you're doing something. You're investigating something that didn't happen.
But if you're an innocent person. Look at me. Here's my books. Here's everything you can look at. Look at me. I didn't do anything wrong.
Right.
That's the normal reaction to an innocent person.
I don't know. I might disagree with that. No, unless you don't get to investigate me if I haven't done anything wrong, right?
Oh, no. If someone tells me I'm the bomber of Spain and I'm like, here's my bank statements, I've never been to Spain, you can look all you want. And because I'll tell you right now, as a prosecutor, we all know when they lawyer
Are you sure about that, Brent?
Yes, 100%.
With the federal prosecutors?
Yes, because here's the deal.
They already know it.
This myth that because like I said, yes, they
and you're quite certain that in the course of discovery, you might not accidentally, there might be some misstatement or something in there that they seize on and say you lied.
They literally already know it.
But wait a minute, I don't want you to say a misstatement is subject to interpretation. You don't plead guilty to a statement that's subject to interpretation.
That has prison time to it. More importantly,
in the realm of federal prosecutions, I think you do.
I don't agree with you.
How many federal criminal cases have you handled?
As in defense, none. I mean, criminal defense.
That's what I'm saying. It's not.
I've had a family member go through one. I don't want to talk about that.
I'm handling one now, which I can't get into. This myth of this evil federal prosecutor, it is the 800-pound gorilla. They walk in and they do the same thing. What they usually do, and I haven't had one in a while, before you plead, and now this is Brent Hazz speaking here, they used to give blanket immunity. They don't do blanket immunity now because of the political ramifications.
Right.
But they used to hook you up to the hot box, and they say, we want you to name every sin you made. We won't use it because we don't want to give you immunity for the murder that happened in 3rd grade, but we want to know about it. But if you lie about one thing, and I've known people who have broke the box, the lie detector test, and had to go get another tape, and none of that made it to the record because they wanted to say, okay, you're going to plead guilty to one crime. Let's take Ivan Johnson, who is the DA's, second person. He pled to one bribe, and I laugh all the time about this. I don't believe any criminal committed one criminal act. Mm-hmm. So when you see a federal indictment or federal conviction to one act, that is a negotiated deal, right, where the feds don't. I talked to some federal prosecutors before who have told me if we got into this subject matter, we would never stop. They want their win, they want to move on, and they want to send a message, whether we're talking about people bribing judges in Mississippi or whether we're talking about whatever else. But this whole thing that the President of the United States was powerless or was naive and didn't know how to play the game, which is another thing, I guarantee you I have no factual basis on it. The Secret Service, who was with Trump all the time, told him or gave him some heads up, y'all need to back off of this. Look, we're just giving you a heads up. And like every narcissist I've ever known, which is Democrat and Republican, that doesn't apply to me, because the feds try to give you heads up. Just like I said, I can sit here and tell you Hillary Clinton should have been indicted.
They didn't do that to the Trump campaign. They were they were surveilling them.
You don't think anybody off the record? You don't think anybody off the record when they were going through advisements? You need to cut off all ties with foreign governments, and we're being sincere. You don't think that briefing was given?
I don't know if it was done off the record, but on the record, it was not.
And what I'm saying
Comey specifically did not give them those briefings. Nobody went to Trump and said, hey, you need to watch out for guys contacting Russians. Nobody did that. And the reason why is because they were already convinced that it was happening anyway, and so it was all a setup. Well, in the meanwhile, it doesn't pan out like they want it to because it wasn't really happening. And so then you got guys altering emails to present to the FISA court, altering evidence.
So wait a minute. So you're telling me Trump Jr. never lied about meeting an adopted baby? He was going to adopt am I making this up, Richie? They was going to meet our ambassador about a Russian baby.
It was a Russian lawyer, and I'm not sure what all was said during that meeting.
He
but I
said
do
he
know
was
this.
going to talk to about adopting
how about
a Russian
this?
baby.
The same
he said, Trump Jr. said
that same Russian lawyer. You know who they met with the day afterwards?
Okay.
The head of the Democratic Convention and Hillary Clinton's campaign.
And
people.
look, I'm sitting.
Did you ever even hear about that?
I'm sitting right here telling you I can't stand Bill Clinton, and I would have indicted Hillary Clinton for that damn server because she sent it to be destroyed.
Yeah.
Because the law, if it doesn't apply to all of us, it doesn't apply to any of us. But this whole thing that I can't sit here and say, oh, Hillary's an innocent victim. No, she's not. You sent a server to New Jersey where the computer expert said, we can't destroy this. This doesn't seem right. I'm good with that because I know the Secretary of State told her, let's not do that.
Yeah.
Let's not use a private email. She didn't use a private Gmail or Yahoo account. She set up a server.
Yeah.
She had knowing intent what was going to happen to that server, and she destroyed evidence. And she should have been indicted for that. Just like I can't sit here in good conscience and say that all these Richard Nixon cronies and all these ex-people, none of these people are virgins in this room. If we three got elected and we're trying to figure out that, yes, but they would have came in and said, look, man, you know what? I did have that conversation. I shouldn't have. I didn't understand all of that. But what you were talking about, these misstatements, all you have to do is say, Richie, to the best of my knowledge, I don't know her, Jessica Schwartz. Stephen, to the best of my knowledge, I don't know her, Reggie Fullwood, or I might have met him. If you couch it like that, they can't trick you. This was not a trick. This is a bunch of people who were not naive to the political game and thought they were smarter.
But it was Brent, there are notes where they talk about trying to entrap him into lying.
And what I'm saying is that's every
pretty
federal
common course.
prosecution.
Okay,
That's pretty
amen.
common
This
course.
is what I'm talking about. The federal prosecution is
That's
not
the way they
fair.
always do it.
So you're saying that every prosecution the feds have done for
I did not say-
obstruction.
I did not
I'm
say
asking
every. I did not say
no,
every.
for obstruction. Everyone because Dickie Scruggs pled for obstruction, did he not? In your opinion,
talking
was
about-
Dickie Scruggs tricked?
No.
Okay, they charged him with an obstruction charge. They got him on a false Bobby DeLauder.
Different circumstance.
Why? Because it's the same federal prosecutors using the same federal. They sent Dickie's son to jail.
We're talking about two different things.
No, we're not. We're talking about the methodology
We're
of
talking
the
about the
federal
Crossfire
prosecutors.
Hurricane team. The Crossfire Hurricane team.
Okay.
In all of these notes from all those investigators that showed that they were biased, they had an outcome in mind that they were trying to justify. Look, the text message between Strzok and Page evidence that they were. They had a crime first, and then they went out and got.
Are
the
you
evidence for
telling
the
me
crime.
the prosecutors who came down here to indict Dickie Scruggs?
No.
Wait, are you telling
No.
me
I'm
that if I
talking
went
about-
to their phones, they were not thinking to themselves, "This is going to make my career. These people are guilty, and we need to get them." Are you telling me those that
No,
cannot be that naive?
No, I'm saying something different. I'm saying what these investigators did in terms of that Crossfire Hurricane investigation is it was all a setup. They set it up, and there are notes, there are text messages where they admit this.
There was no meetings between the what was the guy's name?
Why would they plead guilty if?
So none of these people who pled
Why would
guilty.
you do that?
It was all a manufacturing, and more importantly, why would not Trump come in and pardon all these people if everything you just said was true?
Oh, I think he will.
Why wouldn't
I
he do it
think he will.
beforehand?
Well, he might be. He was advised not to, and there were reasons why.
Why was he advised not to if all this was a setup?
But because they didn't want him to get so personally involved anymore, because that's what got him in trouble in the first place. He went to Comey and tried to see if he would shut the investigation
Back to
down.
Comey, and like I said, I have no question.
And that got him in trouble,
and
so he
let-
didn't.
let me
And
say
so
this
somebody
for the
told him
third
not to do
time.
it again.
You're supposed to, especially when you're in the crosshairs, you're not supposed to go to a prosecutor or to the Justice
Try
Department
to
and
do-
say, hey, by the way,
exactly.
you got to stop this right now.
Well, and so he did that. It didn't work out too good for
well,
him.
he's
so-
not supposed to do that.
So later on, he stopped. Somebody told him you can't do that.
He
fired
stopped
him.
involving.
He fired
He
him.
fired people.
No, he didn't. He didn't step in and just pardon Flynn and do all this stuff to investigate. I mean, to stop the department's.
He fired the person
normal
that was
working.
prosecuting him.
No, he fired James Comey because he needed to be fired.
Did Comey's statement about Hillary being under criminal, the investigation of the emails, did that help or hurt Trump?
It hurt Clinton. It helped Trump.
So why did all of a sudden Comey, who in my opinion, it was once again, I'll say it for the 100th time, Trump would have beat Clinton because Clinton is just one of the worst candidates of all time. She's not likable.
Correct.
And I don't care if it's Russian interference or not. My problem is I don't think the Trump campaign believed that. And I think the Trump campaign, with Trump being the narcissist and his kids being entitled, thought they were smarter than everybody in the room. And they were sitting like, oh, we don't have to play by the rules. I don't think the Trumps ever play by the rules. But with all that said, you're telling me that all of a sudden when Trump won and Hazz becomes the establishment, that now he's a victim of this deep state. Do you believe in deep state?
To some extent, yes.
So everyone is just against Trump, or is Trump the operator?
What do you mean by deep state?
Deep state is a theory that the government is run by these lifelong political appointees.
Yeah, unelected bureaucrats, guys like Peter Strzok.
And they make all the decisions. And
I don't believe that.
So you're telling me that no matter who's in power, I will say this, I believe the haves of the world run the world.
I can tell you that if whoever gets elected, it's always the same people who get back in power.
Correct.
It's money.
Totally.
It's
I
money.
agree with that.
It's money.
But that's exactly the point, is that you have this set of unelected people who live and work in Washington their whole life. They serve in Republican administrations, in Democrat administrations, and when you have newly elected congressmen who don't know how to do, they don't know what's even supposed to be in an appropriations bill, or how you get anything presented, how you get anything through your committee. No, there are people who are there who live there. And no, it's real that there is this set of very important and influential unelected people in Washington who do make a lot of the decisions that get made. The example I like to use is, when I was on the Court of Appeals, right?
As a clerk.
As a judicial clerk, I was writing these opinions. The late Judge Myers was who I clerked for. He did not change a single word in any opinion that I authored for him.
Did he know you were crazy?
Well, no, and because I'm not. But
not certified anyway.
Just to take one example, we discussed it. He said, "Yeah, I'm kind of thinking this," but that was after I had briefed and given him a memo on the case.
Yeah.
And they would go to their panel meetings and decide it. He came back. He said he would just say, "Yeah, affirm it because of," and he would give me just a brief guidance verbally, and then I wrote the opinions. He didn't change a word in any of the opinions I authored. Now, that's what happens in Washington. There are staffers. There are lifetime people who work in these staff positions who do all of the real work. And so it's just like when these bills get written. The people voting on these bills, they don't know what the bills say. It's some 20-something-year-old staffer who actually drafted the thing, who knows what's in it.
And that's a good question. Why do they present these bills? Is it lobbyists?
Yeah.
Is it money?
Right.
That's what money rules the world.
Yeah.
But it's an amazing situation. Your morals seem to disappear when, like, a senator has to get reelected.
Right.
They need money to get reelected.
Right.
A judge is influenced by money. People are all influenced by money. People all around the world.
Yeah.
The president's influenced by money. So my point is that when we start at the beginning, it really should be, in the perfect world, a moral decision on what you do or don't do.
Right.
But we don't have that in the real world.
It's not. But the point is, Brent, after the Mueller investigation found that there was no evidence of coordination, and now the follow-up between the Trump campaign and Russia, and that was the majority of those investigators were Democrats or Democrat supporters. Mueller himself was no fan of Trump. You know this. That largely they were antagonistic. They were not favorable to Trump. They spent tens of millions of dollars in some number, was it a year? I mean, over a year, looking for every possible thing where they could look, and they came up with Nothing.
Well, let me tell you,
They came up with no
Except the
evidence.
17 guilty pleas.
Yeah, but again, all
You
of those
can't
were
say,
pleas.
but what about the 17 guilty pleas? Those people.
Well, then what did the Mueller report say about those?
They said there was obstruction of justice. It literally said that, and it said it's not. It has said it's not within the scope of this. But we're referring it. That you're asking me a question.
No, it's like the fruit of the poisonous tree, man. If there's no
Okay,
predicate for the underlying
No,
investigation,
that's not how obstruction works. Because the whole situation. And let me clarify this: Dickie Scruggs, Richard Scruggs, well-known plaintiff's attorney who pled guilty. He pled guilty to conspiring to bribe a judge in dispute over attorney's fees. I want to get that right.
Right.
But what I'm saying is, no. The law in 2020 is that he and I are charged with bribing a judge, and I lie about knowing him, that obstruction still stands. That is the current law. And you cannot say, well, for the Trumps, and this gets back to whether we should confirm a federal judge or not. It is now, and I'm going to say it's both parties, but this crap where you can sit there and cherry pick when I'm a sinner, or when it's impeachable, or when we can have an affair or we can't have an affair, and it's the federal government's business whether you're having an affair, or it's the federal government's business when you destroy emails. We do not live by a group of laws unless they apply to us all. Now, in the real life, let me go ahead and say this. I don't believe they should confirm a judge because the Republicans set the rule. Now, whether you object to it or not, and this has come from my trial background, once a judge rules, whether you like it or not, it's implemented, it's re judicata, it's collateral estoppel, it has to apply. So when I come back and say, well, I'm using that that doesn't apply here, because you're raising that. We'll just wait. I agree with Richie. I'm more naive than Richard Schwartz. It's a free-for-all. Fine, but as long as you tell me it's a free-for-all and that I can do anything I want, or my candidate can do anything he wants, whether it's cheat, steal, or lie, as long as he benefits me. But the difference between me and the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, the Republican Party, and we can go through them and name them, always sends you, they're the party of morality. They're the party of Christians. It's fake Christians. They never send out the handout. You know, it's always the hand. Oh, what's his name down? The guy who had I like the guy, Chip Pickering.
Yeah.
Chip Pickering used to send out a Christmas card with his kids and his wife, and he said, I'm for family values, and I was for this, and I was for that, and then he got caught having an affair, and no one said
We're all
anything.
human beings.
Exactly.
We're all
if
human beings.
People say that and say, you know what, we're all sinners, those without sin cast the first stone, but the same people who say that the Trump administration were victims of his own
let's
DOJ.
go to the coach at Ole Miss. I mean,
He free.
Yeah, that's the perfect example.
But what I'm saying is, people were talking about and let me go ahead and say this: the people who identify themselves as a Christian in the first 3 sentences you met them, it's like someone calling them honest. Hi, I'm honest, Brent Hazz. You better hold your wallet and get out of the room. These people are sitting there like I don't, the people who build the big crosses, they're the ones I know who are going to burn. Because I don't have to tell people I'm a Christian. My actions show you. But it's those people who sit there who protested too much. And the whole situation is like if Trump does not understand the gift that Jeff Sessions gave him by recusing himself. And there's no criticism of Sessions except by idiots. He was on a tape. He could not be head of that investigation. And that investigation did clear them of initial tampering. But like I said, it's not that they were evil or planned it. It's like Hillary Clinton. They were too stupid to understand. Just tell the truth, morons, and you wouldn't have to plead to all this. We've gotten off topic. It's been an hour. We're supposed to go off of that. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. We are back. Brent Hazard or Richie and Hazz show. Brent Hazard, Richard Schwartz, and Stephen Nixon. Moving on to topic number 2, but let me stop here.
What was the vote count at the end of that? Richie voted no to appointing a replacement. What was your vote?
I would say yes, because the Republicans set the standard.
Okay.
That they should not call
Based
on the 2016,
because of Merrick
they
Garland.
should stick. They're not, and I'm fine with that. But we're just now to a society where we're supposed to be moving on to new topics, but with that said, this is my problem with the current Republican Party. Now, let me say this. I'm a Democrat because it affects my pocketbook, period. Okay. I don't understand why lawyers are not, or him leaning Democratic. I don't understand either one of you two. I got a bar number and I'm a Democrat. But with all that said, I love that phrase, by the way. I say it constantly. The reality is that Reagan had drinks with Tip O'Neill.
Yep.
And all these people who claim Reagan was the greatest thing, and there's a famous Chris Matthews story that says, Chris Matthews brought up something at 5:30 or 6 when they were enjoying scotch or bourbon, and Reagan told Matthews when he was a young page or intern or whatever he was, that's after hours, son. We don't talk politics after hours.
Yep.
And what I'm saying is, and I mean, we got heated, but we're fine, and it's just what it is.
We all love each other.
We always do.
Well, easy killer.
Well, Brent gets heated.
Some get love more than others.
Check ain't cleared for you loving me, okay? I need to have 7 figures on it. If I'm going to be a
I'll
whore,
give you 7 zeros, all you want. I'll give you 8 zeros.
I'll give him 9 zeros.
when I have you boys exterminated, y'all going to laugh. But I mean, that is what's missed. And I'm fine. And I tell people all the time, and you, and like I said, you've been a judge for Clinton, and we haven't said it on this show, but one of the main things you did as a judge was make sure everybody's constitutional rights were protected.
I did my best.
And
Great judge.
I mean, and for the Jackson metro area, Stephen is very well appointed in criminal law because there were constitutional law issues or constitutional rights being abolished by his predecessor. He'll never say that. This is me. But he came in there and said that. But, I mean, I truly believe if the system does not work, and I've had problems with it when it comes to pedophiles, when it comes to this, but if the system doesn't work for us all, if it doesn't protect us all, it just doesn't work. And then what happens is, and I'm fine with turning into barbarians. I'm fine with just, hey, strong survive. The problem is every time I go get my bat or every time it's for me to go get a hammer, it's one of those situations where people are like, well, have some mercy. No, you didn't have any mercy when you were beating the hell out of me 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to have any mercy for you. So I'm just saying, set the rules of the game and let's play. But it's just like one of the main problems I have with the quote-unquote conservatives who are sitting at home waiting on a Social Security check. Social Security is the biggest liberal socialist program the United States ever has. Yeah. And if you're
a Democratic president.
Yes. But not only that.
That was Eisenhower, wasn't it, who started Social Security?
No, it was FDR.
But okay. And I'm fine with that. And I'm not, we need Social Security. But don't lecture me when you're on Medicare and on Social Security about what a conservative you are. And I get tired of elected officials calling themselves conservative. My parents and my grandparents were conservative. They bankrupt the business. And it was because the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan and grain embargo in the Delta, and gets a long story. But, I mean, the United States senators called my grandfather and said, do you want a bailout in the 80s? He said, no, I'd rather bankrupt it. Yeah. But that's who he was. Right. And I'm fine with that. My problem is, like I said, it's forgiveness when the Democrats have power and the Republicans are talking about what senators. No one gave it's the same thing with Trump and his stripper. I don't care if you have a stripper girlfriend or not, or an affair. I don't care.
Yeah. What does that got to do with your ability?
Well, at some point it's about truthfulness too now.
Well, now you're talking about lying. That's completely different.
No, if I can't trust somebody, I can't trust somebody. I don't care if you lie to your. I used to tell people all the time, if you're going to lie to your wife, I'm counting my fingers when I'm dealing with you. Because, then it's only an opportunity when you're going to lie to me. Of course, I tell people all the time, your wife won't beat you to death.
Well, we're talking about politicians. Come on.
No, but we're talking about
people. Talking about politicians.
We're talking about people.
Okay.
But, but like I said.
I'm with you on that one.
No.
How do you know when a politician is lying?
His mouth is moving. That's right.
But what is our failure in society that we've got to this point? What is our failure in society that we say, look, we're all sinners. Can we just get the best people? Because does anybody here think these are the best 2 candidates that we can produce?
I absolutely do not.
Yeah, that's you talk about the big elephant in the room. That's the one. Is like, this is the best both sides could do.
Actually, we're voting for vice presidents.
Yeah,
I don't believe either president will survive.
No, I think Trump's going to survive.
I don't.
Years.
I don't think so.
And okay, let me ask you this. This is off topic. I might be on the list or not. I'll freely admit I do believe Biden's going through some elderly mental issues. Now, is it dementia?
Trump's not?
I'm not saying that, but I think Biden has had moments of confusion. Is Biden, and this is for the social media, the question will be, is Biden better or worse mentally than Thad Cochran was his last run?
Oh, I think that's easy.
I think he's better.
He's better.
And I would say he's a lot better because he's gone through 10 debates. Cochran couldn't even do a debate. And I'm talking about
he's a lot better.
And let me say this. My family knew Thad Cochran.
And Thad was a great person.
I would truly, if we're ranking Mississippians, I would say
Eastland, Stennis, and Cochran.
So you like the people who hate the black people and then Cochran?
No. They did things for Mississippi by getting programs started here. I'm not promoting any racism.
Okay.
I'm promoting money coming to Mississippi.
Okay.
And I think those three.
I wasn't going to say it.
But you got to remember, they also had the most power that we've ever had in the city.
Yeah.
But Cochran was dignified. He was, but I mean, there's no doubt in my mind, he wasn't mentally fit to run for senator when that last term.
Time. Yeah,
go ahead.
He did not seem to be with it that
I
last
think
time.
he had to run because who ran against him?
Chris McDaniel.
Yeah.
I
think he had no choice.
People, and we're not talking about Cochran. We could be talking about Byrd. We could be talking about any elderly senators.
Yeah.
The family enjoys the power. It's not like they're going to make millions of dollars. And, if you're a lobbyist or whatever, it's hard to make millions of dollars as a lobbyist now because of new lobbying rules and things like that.
Right.
And you're not going to have that power that you're going to have as the chairman of appropriations.
Right.
But, I mean, Cochran was, if you're going to tell me in my lifetime the greatest Mississippian ambassador, I'd say Thad Cochran.
I'd say you'd have a good argument to make about that.
So, I mean, this isn't a criticism of him, and I still don't know what, Chris McDaniel's done, but this is a criticism of people talking about, I've had elderly grandparents. I would rather have Biden, who's elderly, who might need to remember what day it is or what topic it is. Trump texts a tweet about Biden being a pedophile. There's just nothing he won't do, and I understand that. He's a reality show star, and he's a narcissist, but I can't live like that. Now, like I said, I can criticize the Democratic Party. I can give you why I can. I just said I would indict Hillary Clinton. Mm-hmm. But what I'm saying is I'm just done with the reality show star. And I'm done with the behavioral issues. I don't know another staff that has come out against him or how many people he's fired. I mean, Rex Tillerson.
Hell, his own sister came out against him.
Well, unofficially, and I think that was cheap.
Was that a niece, though?
That was a niece who recorded his sister, and I have issues about recording family
is that
issues.
what it was?
Yeah.
Okay.
You don't go against family.
Yeah.
I mean, you go against family personally, and I've had issues with my siblings. They've had issues with me. But
I'd be skeptical of
that.
They had
issues
that
with
was
you.
about. That was about.
How's that even possible?
What's that?
His family had issues with him.
No, but I'm just saying, every sibling has
not
issues.
possible. How is it possible?
But yeah, I mean, you got to remember that's Barbara and Raymond's kids. You don't, we had to help move my mom's estate and all that stuff, and you remember who your brother and sister are, and you move on. All families have issues, but recording your aunt secretly. But moving on.
Yeah, but no, you're right. That string of Kelly, Mattis, Bolton. That even as someone, I don't hate Trump. I told you I'm middle of the road about it, but yeah, that is concerning. That so many former staff people have come out and said that they don't think.
Well, here's the bottom line here.
That is a concern. The
moment, and this is what kills me about Trump, when he found out about Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Mm-hmm. And he said, I did not know that. Whatever you thought about her, she led an amazing life.
Yeah.
That moment right there, I truly believe that's who he is when you get past the insecurities. Because everybody who says personally, he's a very nice person. Russell Brand, who's a liberal, he believes in communism, socialism. Yeah. He's a British comedian.
Oh, yeah.
He said that Trump is you're going to hate me for it, but he's one of the nicest people I've ever met. Dana White said when UFC could not get into New York and everybody hated us because we were human cockfighting, Donald Trump said, come to the Trump casino. I'll take care of you. If he had the courage, and I really do believe he was verbally abused by a drunken father. If he just would be that person who had that human compassion, I think he'd win re-election.
Yeah.
And I think he'd be like, that's a nice guy to know. But I think his insecurities get in his way, and I'm just fed up with the circus. But with all, and then
the Twitter,
I'm voting
the rhetoric has been that's. Yeah, you can't defend that stuff.
Correct.
So much of it, you just can't defend it.
But changing to topic number 2.
Okay.
COVID. Who's handled it better, Trump or our Governor Tate Reeves?
No question, our governor.
Yeah, I think he did a good job.
I think.
What
he
would
has.
you? Okay, one A to F. What do you give Trump?
I would give him an F.
Really?
Absolutely.
An F.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't give him.
He's
an
the one that got up there and said, "Oh, don't worry about it. It's just the flu." And then he recently, along with Fauci, admitted that they lied to the American public about masks. They lied to us.
Of course they did. They didn't want it.
They
to
want
run
more
off.
people to die.
No,
People,
they did not.
anybody
want,
can
they
make
did
a
not
mask.
Want to rush. They did not
Anybody
want-
can make a mask.
Now look, I have a huge issue about the mask issue because they could have just said make a homemade mask.
That's
or
all
whatever.
you're gonna do.
But the situation is
But people would have hoarded those masks.
yes.
Well,
But
they did anyway.
I think they would. I think they should have been honest with us. But I think a lot of it was American pride that we don't need all to do what the Asians have done. Okay, but I need a grade before I go to Stephen. You're giving Trump an F. You're giving Tate Reeves a
B.
what? A B. Stephen, what do you give Trump's response to COVID?
I give him like maybe a C.
Okay. And what do you give our governors?
I give Governor Reeves probably B plus, B
Okay.
B plus.
Go ahead. What's your reasonings?
Well, okay, on the C, the thing about everything with Trump gets taken to the superlative, taken to the extreme because he's Trump and he's so polarizing and everything else. If you look at deaths per million, you compare our response to the rest of the world, we're not last. We're not. We're right in the middle with just about everybody else. Everybody did this, every country, with the exception of maybe South Korea. But again, South Korea, they had 3 or 4 test runs with these kind of viruses before. So, but every other country did one degree or another of bad. Deaths per million were right in the middle with most
add
everybody
one more
else.
add one thing to it. What about the fact that Trump did away with our first response committee on these type of situations that Obama put in place?
Yeah, and there's
the
some
fact
of those
he did away
things-
with it because Obama created it.
Yeah,
You got to include that.
Yeah, that I don't know. There's some of those facts I've heard differing opinions about, like the NSC or whoever. He reduced the staff, some said, but he didn't eliminate it. I don't know. I mean, certainly if we can show that we had better preparedness in place that Trump's administration dismantled, then yes, I would criticize that. I would condemn that too. But I just don't know for sure about all that stuff, and I hear conflicting reports about it. Yeah. But I give him a C because again I think a lot of that is colored by your perception of Trump in general. I mean, think about we're talking about Tate Reeves, or think about New York. Think about Andrew Cuomo in New York. How many people died in New York? I mean, it's like almost 35,000 people.
But he did. I'd give Cuomo an A.
See, and that's my say why.
I'd give him an A because he responded to it as well as you can. The reason there are more deaths in New York is because you have so many people per square foot living in one city. Of course, you got to have more deaths. But he made an immediate response. He didn't haul around. He didn't say, "Oh, it's just the flu," and all this stuff. He did something.
Yeah.
And that's what you've got to do. I give him an A. I mean, yes. Was it a lot of deaths? Absolutely.
See.
Could he have stopped those deaths? No.
And I think that Cuomo, the reason why his response to the virus, the numbers on the virus in New York are way worse than
Guess
Florida's,
what? They're
than
one of
other
the
places.
lowest in the country right now.
Well, it is right now.
Yeah,
it is
because
right
of
now.
what Cuomo did.
But they had that that A-shaped
No
thing
question.
that happened with the deaths.
When you're in a bigger city, it's obvious. I mean, it's just nothing you can do about
But
it.
I think Cuomo has a better media personality, and that unfortunately that matters more sometimes than the
Wait a
actual
minute.
results.
Trump's better than anything. He knows everything. He's like Bo Jackson.
But I mean, think about like Ron DeSantis in Florida. Like, what would you give his? What would his grade?
No, y'all
be?
gonna ask me what my.
Oh yeah. I'm sorry,
No,
Grant.
no,
We got to
no.
talk.
I mean, hell, it's only the
Okay,
beginning,
let's
so-
find out.
But I mean, it's fine.
No, let's find out.
I'll just leave.
What's your rating?
I mean, y'all, I feel sorry.
We were
for
having a
people,
good
you know.
talk there.
I
Yeah.
see
Talking
that,
about-
but I mean, I'm just sitting here. But no, the best I've ever seen Trump look when he was deferring to Fauci and he was deferring to Birx and he was answering questions. And I had him at a B+ initially because I thought he was going to erupt. I thought he was going to go crazy. I thought he would never do what he did. So I mean, and I thought if he would have kept that answering questions, deferring to science, And then his ratings were going down. He's worried about the election. I think that actually hurt him.
Right.
But I'm at a C- for Trump because, like I said, I think he's kind of gone off. He stopped listening to Birx or Fauci. Now, I mean, I don't care who he has, but I think you have to appoint someone there and talk to them and know that and stick with them or the philosophy. Now, you can tweak it. But I don't think he brought in a guy from Stanford, and now he's saying, don't wear the mask, wear the mask.
Well, that's a good question. Do you want your president to lie to you? when it comes to your health, do you want your president to lie to you?
They've been lying to us about UFOs for 30 years.
That's not killing us.
But no, but what I'm saying is there is an argument to be made. You don't want panic. And I mean, that's where there's a good faith argument.
There's an easy solution. It already was panic. Just put on a mask. Make a mask.
I just don't see the big deal. We all wear masks. I don't see the big deal. But Tate Reeves, I give Tate Reeves probably a B-, maybe a C. I got Tate over Trump, so I might have to bump Trump down to a C and put Tate at C+. But I do believe Tate has done a better job. I criticized Tate. People forget, went to Spain. He took a family trip to Spain. Then he tried to do the micromanaging. Now, but and I can't stand Tate Reeves, but his articulation while herd immunity is not realistic was the most articulate.
When he gave those numbers,
yes,
that was
was the most articulate explanation I've seen in the nation. And
that was a really good moment for him. It helped me when I was I get it. It'll take 3 years of thousands of people getting infected every day. We can't do that.
And I think he's relied upon his medical team.
Yeah, right.
He really has.
And I think he's been as impressive as he can be.
And I like the fact that he hasn't just done a one size fits all for the whole state. He's isolated certain counties that have needed more restrict. I think it's. I
would have liked the initial state to have been locked down more. Yeah. I understand on his side and his politics that wouldn't have been. This is what kills me. He's trending lower than Trump right now because he's requiring masks. Which at this point, I was sitting at a sports bar the other day and I was watching a game and they seemed to be complying, but there was this huge table and had like 20 people there, and I was just like, this is not. I mean, I got too paranoid. And I just don't see how people are objecting to mask in 2020. Now, do I wear them in the office? We don't have them on here. We're trying to sit 6 feet apart.
Yeah.
But I mean, no. But when you're going into Kroger, I just don't understand the anger with people. Well, let me ask y'all this.
Yeah.
What should we do when the sign is posted on the store and someone comes in without a mask? What's your response, Richie?
You have them. You either ask them to leave, and if they don't leave, they're trespassing.
I'm talking about as a customer. Richard Schwartz is at Kroger.
Customer,
you're
then
shopping.
I wouldn't go to that store anymore.
Okay. Stephen,
that's why they have those signs.
You're at Kroger. You're at Walmart.
I would as a
customer,
a fellow customer. I would just keep my distance from them.
Yeah,
I would keep my own mask on. I wouldn't make a fuss about it.
Because I mean, it burns.
What if they were sneezing and coughing?
Well, if I have, again, that's what the distance and the mask.
Well, I know how far does a cough travel?
Yeah. Well, I guess I don't know.
Okay, it travels a long ways, and so I mean you're not immune. So you let a person in there without a mask. If you had the mask and cough,
do you say something or you just leave? I just leave.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah. If I felt like unsafe, I don't know that I'd make a fuss. I would just leave. Yeah.
No, I mean, and what's funny is I've actually started using Amazon more, but I'll be at Kroger, and I love Kroger, but everybody's keeping their distance. Everybody's got the mask on. Then you go check out. And people get congregated at that checkout area, and I'll start being like, and I know half of it's mental, but I'll be like, I'm not comfortable here. Let me see what I can get online. And, Kroger's doing the best they can, but people are just trying to, keep their distance and shop. And, you're just like, I go to Kroger at 10 o'clock or I go in the mornings. But, yes, that whole in the mornings at nights. But, back to the question. I think Tate's done a decent job. I think it's probably, he's impressed more and he's been more competent than I thought he possibly could be.
He's not a very good speaker. I will say that.
He doesn't have a personality.
No, he's not a very good speaker at all.
He hasn't been a complete ass, which is a great, step for him. But
hey,
no.
I kind of liked him to begin with, but that's fine.
Okay. I mean,
We've talked about it.
No. Or not on this show, not on this format. But no, but no.
I mean, but he's also not my favorite, but I liked him. I mean, in general.
For someone.
He also likes puppies.
Yeah.
Someone who
Call him anytime.
He does a great job carrying Haley Barber's bags. Okay. I mean, not everybody can carry Haley's bags. But moving on to the topics. Well, Richie, before we go, Boy Scouts of America, talk to us about that.
Oh, yeah. There's a deadline, November 16th, to file. Boy Scouts of America has filed bankruptcy because of all the sexual innuendos and the lawsuits that have appeared. There's now $1.2 billion in the fund. If all the insurance is paid, it's probably going to be closer to $5 billion with the dollars in the fund.
Okay.
And they're going to cut off your ability to make a claim. So if you were sexually harassed while in the Boy Scouts, which they said a long-time scar. I mean, I can't imagine someone getting over that anytime in their lifetime. You better do something now, because if you want to be compensated for it, now's the time you got to do it. It's got to be filed before November 16th. If it's not, you forever lose your rights.
Okay.
Let's move local for our last topic of the day, and we'll wrap it up. This has gone on a little bit. And we got to do it under in 20 minutes. I see the Mayor Lumumba, has been on the national shows talking about race issues and COVID issues. Should the mayor be discussing these issues when the murder rate's about to set a new record? Stephen, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, should he be talking about those issues?
Should he mention that we're going to set a new murder rate in Jackson, Mississippi?
Yeah, I mean, obviously racial issues, I mean, that's at the forefront of everything right now,
And he's not being invited on these shows to talk about that.
Right, and so Jackson has had issues with crime for years, and so setting a record, for homicides or whatever, if we're on pace to do that, I mean, that is that's saying something.
That's hitting a new low.
Yeah, for us to hit a record even there, but. I just don't know, I don't mind him doing these public appearances to talk about this issue that is just at the forefront of everybody's thoughts right now. The racial issues, the question, policing and whether, reforms of policing and the rest that's being discussed. But to me, though, they're not unrelated, because, crime rates and policing and all those things, they go hand in hand, right? I mean, when you have effective law enforcement, there's less crime.
I would say they're unrelated, because JPD is majority African American now, and you're talking about racial profiling and racial civil rights abuse.
I would agree with that too. That, like, when you hear discussing things like systemic or institutionalized racism in certain areas, I mean, that's a question I have personally. Does that include JPD or Hinds County?
No, I mean, when you're talking about poverty,
it seems like those systems are overwhelmingly dominated now and controlled by African Americans in Hinds County.
When you're talking about economic opportunity and investment, obviously that's happened in 400 years in Mississippi occurred. Right. But what I'm saying is, to me, why aren't we addressing? He threw out. Well, let me throw it to Richie before we follow up with that. Richie. Should he be talking? Should he at least draw some attention? He had a press conference.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong in talking about problems.
Okay.
And giving your opinion, because you are a representative of the people, and you're talking to the people who are going to get you reelected.
Should his priority be COVID or the murder rate, in your opinion?
I would say it would probably be the murder rate. Okay. And here's why. I think every citizen has the right to be peaceful in their home, and not have a problem living in your home, having stray bullets going through your home, killing their children, going outside and enjoying life, but being too scared to do it. Something needs to be done on that. Now, I'm very critical of this mayor. I don't think he has done what I would have done if I were mayor. But
you running?
No, I'm not running. But it's a real problem. And if I were the governor, like we've said before,
governor.
Now, if I were the governor, I understand that everyone has a right to having that kind of safety in their home. I'd send out the National Guard tomorrow.
in Jackson.
Absolutely would. I'd send the National Guard in Jackson.
Martial
right
law.
No,
not
that's not
necessarily,
martial
Brent.
law.
No.
How's that not national?
No, if you send troops in, if they're supplement to local law enforcement, that's not martial law.
No, it's not even close.
That's
to
just
martial
getting
law.
that's just getting more law enforcement boots on the ground.
Yeah, that's not martial law.
Well,
Basically,
both
what I'm
know.
saying is they have
I mean,
a right
because
to
you
be
don't you
safe
don't
in
you
their
don't
home.
suspend constitutional rights or anything. They're just there to assist and supplement local law enforcement.
Yeah.
So let me rephrase the question to you, Stephen, so we can have the same question asked. Should the mayor make COVID or the murder rate a priority?
I think as of right now, it should be the murder rate, and the reason why is because just looking at our Department of Health statistics, I mean, new deaths reported in Mississippi as of September 19th, 1. So I mean, obviously, we can't say we got the virus licked or we just got it totally under control, but these numbers are all going in the right direction in terms of hospitalizations and death rates, and so. Yeah, I mean, I think what we're doing with the COVID stuff appears to be working, and so it's not like been there, done that, it's solved, but it's okay. Now we have another glaring problem staring us in the face, where we got, as of April, 67 homicides in Jackson for 2020. That's 67 homicides in 4 months.
No, I know it's horrible.
And in a relatively small town, as these things go,
Yeah.
that's a lot.
I have a question for you. You think COVID?
Well,
for you, okay.
I mean, no, I'm just. Can I
I
answer
have
my
a-
own question?
Yeah, go ahead.
You don't realize
I didn't
there's
know-
three
I
people
didn't know
sitting
you had a
here.
question in
There's
your
three
mind.
people sitting here.
I only see 2.
God. Anyway, would you feel more comfortable doing a show on an 18-wheeler? I'm just asking. Could you see me then? I would say the reason he shouldn't make it a priority because we have a governor, we have the president, we have other officials working on COVID.
Yeah.
No one else is working on the murder rate.
No one else can. In Jackson,
yeah,
right? I mean, it's him
and I mean
and
that
the police
he,
and the city council.
and this is my follow-up question. But now here, I'll go back to you. What's
I
your
just have a question.
Go
you
ahead.
think that COVID's going to get worse in the wintertime?
Of course it is.
I think it's going to get terrible, and I think
Historically
somebody needs
speaking,
to. What's that?
using the 1918 model.
Yeah, so you need to get in front of that and make people aware
The mayor?
that the mayor, the governor, the president.
But I think the word is now. Let me say this: the 1918 model, they didn't have the internet. We've done a great job. I mean, I had an issue with masks. I was wearing handkerchiefs or bandanas. Now I've adapted and been used to masks.
Yeah.
So I mean, I understand it's a conditioning. So maybe that makes it not as bad.
Could be.
But I think with schools and the flu. But what's your prediction? Worse or not?
I don't think it's going to get substantially worse. I think that what we should prepare for is, you prepare for the possibility, but I think next time it needs to be more strategic and targeted, where we don't just make everybody blanket stay home. Is we identify the at-risk population, you isolate them, and then everybody else, you give them guidelines and say, you need to mask up, you need to be careful to keep distance, and all the other things we're supposed to do. But I think that the more recent spikes have been among younger age people, so the hospitalizations are not going up, deaths aren't going up, and so I think that once it works its way through that younger and less the population that doesn't have the same level of risk. I just don't think – I think you may see case numbers go back up, but I don't know that we're going to see the same level of hospitalizations and deaths.
People are going to be inside a lot more.
Yeah.
And I think the exposure is going to be higher.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's possible, and we have to prepare for the possibility,
Yes.
of course. But I just have this sense that I think our healthcare professionals are better at dealing with it now than they were at first. I mean, there's a lot of – we know a little bit more about it. So the surface transmission is not as big of a risk. I mean,
Let's stop there. What is your opinion?
Yeah, what do you think, Brent?
No, I agree. I think statistically, I've already said this. Y'all don't listen to me. Statistically, based on 1918, because I'm a big analysis guy, that it's going to spike in October, and because of flu season and kids being indoors and not being able to go outside.
Yeah.
And I do believe scientific data is undisputed that the sunlight destroys it. So when you start losing sunlight, and I just believe this year's flu with COVID is going to be worse because we really didn't have that last year. Yeah. We had some of the flu, and this came in February or March, but it's really hit. But I mean,
I mean, there's going to be a
2
COVID
years.
season every year now to
Yes.
go along with cold and flu season.
It's not going away.
But
you
we're
know.
going to have a vaccine probably in about 9 more months,
Well, wait,
maybe a year.
You think a vaccine solves the problem?
No, sir, sunshine. Vaccines do not cure things. They prevent things, but just like every issue. Well, I've heard this in debate. If this was the first time we really experienced swine flu, the first year is going to be the roughest.
Yeah, that's
and then
right.
we learn and educate and overcome. And then also, I hate to say it, there's some of us walking around that just don't have the natural defenses.
Yeah.
And it could be me. It could be one of y'all. And then when we get it, those are people you hear about, like, he died in 2 days.
Yeah.
And I mean, there is going to be some herd immunity. So I mean, it's going to be 2 years is when they got over the pandemic in 1918. Of course, they didn't have the internet, they didn't have technologies, they didn't have a global, joint effort. So
People, when they like 40 million or 100 million people
don't
died.
think-
Of course,
Worldwide.
that was World War I also. So I don't. It was some unbelievable. number.
I think you're.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think it was 100 million.
There was a
people.
great book on the 1918 flu too by the guy who wrote Rising Tide. What's his name?
50 million deaths.
John.
million.
Oh yeah, I think his name John Barry or somebody Barry. He wrote this awesome book about the 27 flood called Rising Tide. Must read if you're listening to this. He also wrote a book on that 1918 Spanish flu pandemic, and so. I actually got that, and I've started it. But he's a great writer, and but yeah, I'd be curious to see because I mean that's the big question: second wave, is it going to hit? How big is it going to be?
Sure that schools anticipate or shut down due to this second wave.
Yeah, and I think they're already planning to do that. Most colleges are letting out after Thanksgiving. They've done their schedule so that kids go home earlier.
Are you getting vaccinated, Richie?
Not for a long time.
I'm talking about flu.
Flu, yes.
Are you getting vaccinated for the flu?
Yeah, I'll probably get a flu shot.
I'll
yeah.
get a flu shot.
I mean, I usually get sick from a flu shot, but I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
Everybody tells me it's impossible.
It
but
is.
I never
do
got
it
flu
anyway.
shots.
I do it anyway.
Yeah.
You get sick anyway. You feel bad. You don't get the flu from dead flu.
No, I get a fever and I feel sick.
Okay.
Every time I get a flu shot.
Yeah, that can happen, apparently.
Yeah. You do get a fever. I'm not saying that it's not the flu though. You have a bad reaction.
Yeah. You get sick.
Okay,
You don't get the flu, but you get
I'm
sick.
just clarifying that.
Yeah.
In fact,
But
the flu shot kind of scares me in these vaccines because
Electricity
most of the
scares
flu
you.
shot, most of the time, it has a mercury base.
They've proved that not to be true.
What do you mean they proved?
They've
it not to be
proved
true?
mercury causing autism or anything like that is not true. It's not. It was a bad report. Mr. Nixon, am I wrong about that?
I'm unfamiliar with that. I just know that I'm more on the side of take the vaccines unless you know
They're talking about the
But there are other
mercury.
bases you could use.
It totally is, but they proved that the mercury was not causing the issues. It was
They
one
also
bad
proved
report.
that the COVID wasn't, but the flu. I mean, what
You're
does
not
that mean? It just matters whose opinion is what.
Well, if I die from COVID, it's a huge disease. If I survive it and don't get any symptoms, it's not that big a deal. It's all about individuals.
That's
I mean, let's be honest. You know, it's that. Oh, Mel Brooks said it. I get a paper cut. That's a tragedy. You fell
But
down
we
the
do
open-
know
Am I- I'm
mercury,
sorry,
once
was I
it's in your
finished?
system. Oh, I thought you
No,
were through.
no. Just go. It's all about you, narcissism.
Yes, it is.
You narcissist. Trump Jr. is your new name.
But we do know when you put mercury in your body, it doesn't go away and it builds up. More mercury you have builds up.
So is that why you're so stupid? Mercury vaccination?
That's probably a good
But
excuse.
I've never gotten flu shots every year. It hasn't been because of the mercury issue. It's just because I've just never.
Timing.
Yeah, and all that. But I've started to get them recently. My doctors tell me I need to. Cause
now Germany was encouraging you to get whooping cough, TB. I went and got everything, and I was like, "Is there any harm in getting all this?" No, give it.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, I want anything and everything.
You lose a lot of hair if you take too many of them.
Can you give me the guy? Can you give me the guy who does your toupees so I can get a couple of them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll send you to somebody.
Anyway,
I couldn't recognize you if you had hair. I've known you too long.
You really, if you knew me long enough, you would know I'd had hair at one point.
You did?
Yes. I didn't
Okay,
shave my
I
hair till I
believe
was
you.
27. But anyway, with all that said, we're going to wrap up. It's been an interesting first
It's been
show.
fun.
We didn't
Fun.
cover half the topics, but we're going to try to do this every 2 weeks.
Okay.
And we're going to work out the bugs. It's not going to be the prettiest, but we want to thank Reggie Wheaton of Life Pop.
Yep.
And remind
job, buddy.
everybody.
Great job.
Now, I don't
Great
know what he's
job.
done. We'll see the
I think he needs to
finished
say thank you.
products.
Let's say him say thank you.
Very welcome. I'm very thankful for the opportunity. And I believe we're going to build a great show here.
Reggie, if anybody wants to get hold of you to film a wedding or a family what else do you film? Anything? Bar mitzvah?
Every genre of video you can do that's safe.
What do you mean that's safe?
That's safe within
What's not
guidelines
safe?
of a good moral person.
Okay.
We can bring it to life.
So human sacrifice, you're not shooting.
If it fit within good morals.
What if it's $100,000 for a human sacrifice?
Some doctors do it anyway.
Okay. How do they get hold of you?
LifePopStudios.com.
And with all that said, we'll be back in 2 weeks. Thank you.